John Deere, the agricultural giant synonymous with machinery as green as spring fields, recently found itself at the center of a storm. For years, the name John Deere conjured up images of efficiency, reliability, and an almost stubborn commitment to innovation. But as the criticism mounted, it seemed the iconic company was at risk of losing its grip on the perception it had cultivated over decades. Like a farmer staring down an approaching thunderhead, Deere made a choice to strike back, assert its dominance, and remind the world why it wears the crown of agriculture with such aplomb. But before we proceed further, don't forget to smash that like button and subscribe. The backlash began quietly, like a whisper of wind before a storm, and then gathered force. Farmers and tech enthusiasts alike raised concerns about Deere's policies surrounding equipment repair, with many accusing the company of locking them out of their own machinery. The issue of right to repair gained traction, fueled by stories of farmers stuck with disabled tractors during critical planting or harvesting windows. For a company rooted in farming tradition, the criticism hit hard, questioning whether Deere had drifted from its roots. But Deere, true to form, didn't shy away. Instead, it leaned into the challenge, determined to clear its name. At the heart of John Deere's response was its undeniable legacy. This was no upstart company trying to elbow its way into relevance. For nearly 2 centuries, Deere had been the go-to name in agriculture, a name farmers trusted like the earth beneath their feet. This was a brand that had seen the transition from horse-drawn plows to GPS-guided tractors, always adapting but never losing its sense of purpose. So when the critics came calling, Deere did what it always had, rolled up its sleeves and got to work. In a move that surprised many, Deere opted to tackle the criticism head-on, unveiling plans to expand access to repair options for its equipment. The company announced new initiatives designed to help farmers and independent mechanics gain the tools and software needed to perform repairs on modern machinery. While the cynics grumbled that Deere was only doing this under pressure, others saw it as a bold acknowledgement of the shifting dynamics in agriculture. It was as if Deere was saying, "All right, you've made your point. Now, let's see what we can do." Deere's response wasn't just about placating critics. It was about reminding everyone why it had been at the top for so long. The company rolled out a comprehensive communication campaign, featuring heartfelt stories of farmers who relied on their John Deere equipment like a second set of hands. One ad showcased a family farm spanning 3 generations, with the same old Deere tractor working the fields as it had since the grandfather's time. The underlying message was clear. John Deere wasn't just a company. It was a partner in agriculture's ongoing story. Humor, too, found its place in Deere's fight-back strategy. A particularly memorable video featured a mechanic demonstrating how complicated the software was, only to find out mid-demonstration that the fix was as simple as turning a bolt. The man's sheepish grin became a rallying cry of sorts. This wasn't rocket science, and Deere was here to prove it. It was a small but meaningful gesture, signaling that the company could address criticism without losing its humanity. But the fight back wasn't just for show. Deere began introducing practical tools to make equipment repairs more accessible. By creating online platforms where users could download manuals, diagnostic codes, and repair guides, the company took a significant step forward. Farmers who once felt alienated now had the means to maintain their machines without relying on costly dealership services. It was a calculated move, and while it didn't erase all concerns, it made a statement. John Deere was listening. Behind the scenes, the company also leaned heavily on its research and development teams. Deere knew it couldn't just solve yesterday's problems. It needed to prepare for tomorrow's. The engineers were tasked with finding ways to integrate more user-friendly features into the next generation of machinery. Rumors swirled of upcoming models with touchscreen interfaces, so intuitive that even the most skeptical farmer would nod in approval. While these whispers were just that, whispers, they painted a picture of a company determined to stay ahead of the curve. For all its serious posturing, there were moments when Deere's charm shone through. At one farming expo, a Deere executive playfully quipped that their tractors weren't just green, they were green with envy at all the attention they were getting. It was a subtle jab at the critics, wrapped in a layer of self-deprecating humor that only a company with deep confidence could pull off. The crowd chuckled, but the point was made. John Deere wasn't backing down. The implications of this battle were far-reaching. On one level, Deere's response highlighted the growing tension between tradition and technology in agriculture. Farming had always been about more than just the crops. It was about independence, self-reliance, and pride in one's work. The right to repair debate tapped into those values, forcing companies like Deere to reevaluate how they'd balanced innovation with accessibility. On another level, Deere's actions set a precedent for other industries. If a company as entrenched in its ways as John Deere could pivot and address customer concerns, what excuse did others have? The ripple effect was palpable, with other manufacturers in different sectors taking note. Deere wasn't just fixing tractors, it was reshaping the conversation around corporate accountability. The critics didn't disappear overnight, of course. There were still skeptics who questioned the sincerity of Deere's efforts. Were these new repair options a genuine attempt to bridge the gap, or just a way to silence the loudest voices? It was a fair question, but one that seemed less pressing as farmers began to reap the benefits of Deere's changes. Deere's journey through this controversy wasn't smooth, but it was telling. The company didn't resort to empty platitudes or superficial gestures. Instead, it leaned into its history, acknowledging its mistakes while reaffirming its commitment to the farmers who relied on it. It was a balancing act, to be sure, but one that Deere pulled off with a kind of quiet determination that felt distinctly, well, Deere. As the dust settled, one thing became clear. John Deere hadn't just weathered the storm. It had come out stronger. By addressing the criticism with a mix of humility and resolve, the company reminded everyone why it had been a cornerstone of agriculture for nearly 2 centuries. In doing so, it not only answered its detractors but also charted a course for a more inclusive and farmer-friendly future. This wasn't just a story about tractors or policies. It was a story about resilience, adaptation, and the enduring bond between a company and its customers. John Deere struck back, not with bluster, but with action, and in doing so it planted the seeds for something even bigger than its critics could have imagined. The story of John Deere's response didn't just end with the immediate changes it implemented. Beyond the tools, the platforms, and the outreach, Deere's efforts planted something intangible yet powerful, a renewed trust. Farmers who had once doubted the brand they had long considered an ally began to feel heard again. It wasn't perfection, but it was progress. Perhaps the most striking aspect of Deere's strike back was its embrace of the evolving landscape without abandoning its essence. It didn't just modernize, it modernized with purpose. Every step it took seemed aimed at reconnecting with the farmers who had always been its lifeblood. And while the road ahead might still be bumpy, Deere had proven it could steer through challenges with the same precision its machines brought to the fields. In the end, John Deere reminded everyone of one enduring truth. The only thing more reliable than its machines is its determination to keep moving forward. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for more engaging content. We thrive on your feedback, so be sure to leave your thoughts in the comments section below. Until next time, keep discovering and stay tuned.